A short while ago, we got a new trailer for the Alone in the Dark remake, and it is called Looking for Jeremy, and it is basically a gameplay trailer that shows off the gameplay of what Alone in the Dark 2024 is going to be like. So I thought today I would go over some of the bigger points that I saw within the 7-minute trailer, because I'm very much looking forward to this game, as it is the big release at the start of 2024. Originally, for those of you who don't know, it was supposed to come out in October 2023, but because October was stacked with quite a few big releases, such as Assassin's Creed Mirage and Marvel Spider-Man 2, THQ Nordic decided to push the game into 2024, which I think was a pretty good plan. As in January, I think the only other game off the top of my head that's coming out is the Prince of Persia Lost Crown game, which comes out on the 18th, where Alone in the Dark is scheduled for the 16th. So they're not really competing with each other, as they are two very different games. And it's not like the genre of the games are that similar anyway, as Alone in the Dark is a survival horror game, whereas the Prince of Persia The Lost Crown is a 2D Metroidvania platformer game. So the overlap there isn't major within the two genres. So the first thing that I noticed within this trailer is that the Alone in the Dark remake is taking heavy inspiration from the Resident Evil remakes, that being the recent ones being 2, 3 and 4, as it is the over-the-shoulder style gameplay system that has been popular for like years now, first being popularized by the original Resi 4 in 2005. So I think that was kind of to be expected, as we kind of got a small glimpse of that in the initial trailer and the kind of like developer showcase that they did a couple of months ago, and also with the Grace in the Dark demo as well. That was kind of in over-the-shoulder third-person style, but now that we've actually seen gunplay and combat, it does look to be very similar to the Resident Evil remakes, which personally I think is a good thing, as those remakes are incredible. Well, 2 and 4 are incredible. Resident Evil 3 is good, but it could be better, as I'm sure there are videos online that will go into detail about that, but I am quite pleased that it is taking inspiration from the Resi remakes. Speaking of gunplay, I believe we only saw the revolver in the trailer, and judging by the looks of it, it gave me quite strong vibes of Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1. For those of you who don't know, in that game there are like these bandit dens that Sherlock can go into, and in them is where he'll be given a gun and he can take out the enemies. It kind of gave me that vibe, mostly because it seemed a tad clunky. Like, it didn't seem as smooth as like the Resident Evil remakes gunplay is. But that being said, it was only a trailer, so I'm going to wait until I have the game in my hands to actually judge the gameplay fully. But it definitely seemed as if the gunplay could be tightened up a little bit, as, I don't know, it just seemed a bit clunky. We also saw a small bit of melee combat, and just like the gunplay, it did seem a little bit clunky and finicky, but I'm going to wait until I have the game in my hands for judging it any further. A big emphasis in this trailer was the kind of dual narrative perspective of the game. As those of you who aren't aware, the game has 2 separate campaigns, even though I'm going to guess it follows the same story, just the way you do things are different. For example, you can either play as Edward Carnby, who is the detective played by David Harbour, or Emily Hartwood, who is played by Jodie Comer. Based on the gameplay that was shown, there was a certain section that stuck out to me, and that was the section where either Edward or Emily was walking down a corridor inside the Dossetto mansion, and Edward, he had to open a door with a key that was a bit further down the hall, whereas Emily, she was walking down the hall and further up a door opened by itself. And with Edward's gameplay, you definitely got the more detective-y vibe, because he is a private investigator, as he was drafted in by Emily to look for Jeremy, so it would make sense why his gameplay is much more detective focused, and Emily's seems to be, from what I saw in the trailer, more horror based and scary-ish, as obviously Emily, I believe, grew up in the Dossetto mansion, so she is aware of all of the kind of history that goes on there, whereas Edward doesn't, as I believe in a previous trailer, Emily says about, I think it's the Shadow Man, who she's been seeing. So it makes sense if Emily's playthrough is more horror focused, whereas Edward is more detective based. But I'm sure even if one campaign is more, let's say, detective focused than the other, I'm sure you will still be doing both within each other's campaign. Like, I'm sure there'll be horror stuff in Edward's campaign and detective stuff in Emily's as well. Also in this trailer we got to hear more of David Harbour and Jodie Comer as Edward and Emily respectively, and I have to say I'm very impressed with what I've seen so far, and I think they will do a good job portraying the characters. Also, something else I noticed during the cutscenes that were shown is that the face models for both Edward and Emily seem quite high quality, so that's good to see. Not so much can be said with the other characters. They seem to be kind of a step down from the kind of like mo-capped look, I guess. Like with Edward and Emily you can tell that they were mo-capped by the actors, but with the other characters, for example, that we saw, you can tell that they were just kind of made in the engine rather than being mo-capped by actual actors. So those are some of the bigger things that I noticed within this trailer. I'll leave a link to it so you can watch it in the description down below. And if you noticed anything that I didn't, please let me know in the comments down below. And after watching this trailer, I am very much excited to play the full game when it releases on January the 16th. I potentially may be streaming it, I haven't decided yet. But I would love to hear your thoughts about the game down below. But that's what I have for this video. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe. And I will see you in another video.